the beginning of this story, we see a prison in Siberia where many German soldiers were held. After World War II ended, Russia captured a large number of German soldiers and forced them to work in lead mines. Although the security of this prison was quite low, no one ever tried to escape because the prison was surrounded by nothing but ice and snow, and it was 14,000 kilometers away from any human settlement. So even if a prisoner did manage to escape, their death in the freezing cold of Siberia was inevitable. However, among these prisoners, there was one who wanted to escape the prison and reunite with his wife and daughter. This prisoner was named Clem Farrell, who had been sentenced to 25 years in this prison. But Clem was determined to escape because he couldn't spend his whole life as a prisoner. One day, Clem got an opportunity to escape, and he hid in a coal-laden train to break free from the prison. When Clem saw the open sky and the stars outside the prison for the first time, he was overjoyed. However, after traveling a short distance, the train was stopped, and when Clem peeked outside, he saw a Russian soldier pointing a rifle at him. Clem was caught, and for attempting to escape, he was thrown into an open-air cell. 2 days later, the warden came to his cell, took him out, and said, "Your comrades are eagerly waiting for you." When Clem finally met his fellow prisoners, they were armed with sticks and clubs, as the guards had kept them hungry for the past 2 days due to Clem's escape. As soon as Clem appeared, the other prisoners attacked him and beat him mercilessly. Clem was so badly injured from the assault that he had to be admitted to the prison hospital. Now the doctor in this prison was also a German prisoner, and he was quite surprised to see Clem's bravery. Clem told the doctor that he wanted to escape the prison once again and needed his help for the task. The doctor explained that escaping from this prison alive was impossible, and even if Clem managed to escape, he would likely die from the freezing cold outside. But the truth was, even if Clem didn't escape, his death was certain because the mines where he worked had a high amount of lead, which entered the body through the air and could cause deadly diseases like cancer. Therefore, the doctor advised Clem to make one last attempt to escape. The doctor then removed all his warm clothes and shoes and gave them to Clem, telling him that Russian soldiers hide their food along the railway lines. He also gave Clem a gun for self-defense. The doctor had gathered all this gear because he himself wanted to escape. But a week ago, he found out he was suffering from cancer and had less than a month to live. The doctor then gave Clem a lunchbox and asked him to deliver it to his family if he survived, and to tell them that he would no longer be alive. That night in the dark, Clem escaped once again, and this time, instead of riding the freight train, he decided to walk. The next morning, when the warden found out that Clem had escaped, he went to the doctor's room to interrogate him. But before he arrived, the doctor had taken his own life. Afterward, the warden sent many Russian soldiers to search for Clem, but despite searching for many days, they couldn't find any trace of him. Everyone assumed that Clem must have frozen to death in the cold, but the warden knew that Clem was very strong and wouldn't give up easily, so he ordered the search to continue. Meanwhile, Clem was seen bravely pushing through a snowstorm, moving forward with determination. Days after escaping the prison, he suddenly heard the sound of barking dogs. As he turned around, he saw a sled approaching him. Before he could run, the sled reached him and ran over him, passing by. Then Clem woke up and realized he had only been dreaming. In reality, Clem had been walking on foot for the past 9 days, and now his food had run out. Hunger and exhaustion were making it difficult for him to continue, but despite this, Clem didn't give up and kept moving forward. After walking for several more days, Clem's body finally gave out, and he fainted from hunger. A few hours later, when he regained consciousness, he heard a strange sound nearby. He looked up and saw a seal, and his eyes lit up. He immediately drew his gun and aimed at the seal with all his strength, but missed. The seal started running away, and Clem quickly chased after it. Just before he could shoot again, the seal hid behind a rock. Before it could escape into the water, Clem fired his last shot, and luckily this time, he hit the seal. Seeing this, Clem was overjoyed, because now he wouldn't have to worry about food for the rest of his journey. After many days, Clem finally had a full meal, and after resting for a bit, continued on his journey. During this long journey, Clem was completely alone, surrounded by nothing but snow. In such an environment, his mental state could have deteriorated, so he constantly talked to himself and kept saying positive things to stay motivated and keep moving forward. He also regularly checked his direction using a compass to avoid getting lost in the vast snowy landscape. Days went by, and after walking continuously for 2 months, Clem finally saw a small tree in the snow. Overjoyed, he ran up to it and hugged it tightly. This tree was a sign that, after 2 months of walking, Clem had crossed out of the Arctic Circle. Meanwhile, the warden was still searching for Clem. He ordered his search party to look within a 500-kilometer radius. At the same time, Clem was walking through a forest when a snowstorm suddenly hit. The storm was so strong that even large trees were uprooted and fell to the ground. As Clem tried to move forward, a massive tree fell directly on him. Luckily, his fate took a turn. Two men named Sam John and Matten, who were searching for gold in the forest, saw Clem and rescued him just in time. The three of them continued their journey together. After walking for several days, they finally made it out of the snowy terrain. On their way, they came across a river and built a wooden raft to cross it. While crossing, they chatted and shared stories from their childhoods. But suddenly, the river current grew stronger, and their small raft became uncontrollable. Amid the chaos, Sam John lost his balance and fell into the river. Since he couldn't swim, he began to drown. Seeing this, Clem jumped into the water and with great effort, pulled Sam John to the riverbank. Meanwhile, Matten abandoned them and went ahead alone with the raft. After some time, he reached a cabin where he and Sam John had previously stayed. There, greed took over him. Believing Sam John to be dead, he stole his share of the gold and other belongings. However, not long after, Clem and Sam John also arrived at the cabin. Enraged by Matten's betrayal, Sam John shot and killed him. After that, Clem and Sam John packed up their belongings and continued their journey, walking for several more months in the hope of eventually finding a human settlement. Winter came again, and the surrounding forests were once again covered in a white blanket of snow. Since Sam John's belongings were heavy, he struggled to walk in the snow. Seeing this, Clem offered to carry some of his load to help him out. But Sam John became suspicious and thought Clem was trying to steal his gold. In a panic, he attacked Clem and knocked him unconscious. A while later, when Clem regained consciousness, he saw a pack of wolves approaching him. To save himself, he climbed a tree, but the wolves began pulling at his leg, trying to drag him down. The tree was thin, and eventually it snapped, sending Clem crashing to the ground. His death seemed certain, but just then, the sound of gunshots rang out. When Clem opened his eyes, he saw that all the wolves were dead. It turned out that hunters in the area had arrived just in time and saved his life. They picked him up and took him to their village, where the other villagers treated his injuries and took care of him. After years of hard work, the claim finally reached a human settlement, and he was extremely happy to see so many people around him. For the next several days, the claim stayed in this village, and the villagers treated him very well. One day, a notice came to the village, sent by none other than the warden himself. In the letter, he stated that a German soldier had escaped from their prison, and if anyone gave him shelter, they would be charged with treason. Reluctantly, the claim had to leave the village. But before leaving, the villagers gave him plenty of food and a hunting dog. During the long journey, the claim had a companion, so he didn't feel lonely. After walking for many days, they came across a mill, and as soon as the dog saw it, he ran off in search of food. To save his dog, the claim entered the mill, where the workers recognized him and took him to their employer. The claim shared his entire story with them, and after hearing everything, they sympathized with him. They gave him food and placed him on a train to Germany. The claim was happy, thinking he would soon reach home. But what he didn't know was that the mill owner had informed the warden, and the warden, along with his soldiers, was waiting for him at the station. Before he could reach the station, the claim noticed the soldiers and, taking advantage of the situation, jumped off the train and ran away. Unfortunately, Russian soldiers spotted him and started chasing him. The claim quickly crossed the train tracks, but out of nowhere, the warden appeared in front of him. The claim felt his heart sink, as all his years of effort were about to go to waste. But before the warden could arrest him, the dog attacked the warden and bit him. This gave the claim a chance to escape, and he ran for his life. But then he heard gunshots, and when he looked back, he saw his dog had been killed. The sight deeply saddened him, but he didn't stop and kept moving forward with all his strength. He climbed up a bridge and jumped onto a passing train, escaping from the warden once again. Days passed, and the claim continued his journey. Slowly he advanced, and by 1952, 7 years had passed since he escaped from prison. Now he was in Central Asia, wandering around a village fair. At the fair, he saw various food items, but since he had no money, he kept moving on. That's when he saw two girls selling pancakes. He wanted to eat one, but since he had no money, he turned away in disappointment. But one of the girls felt sorry for him and broke off a piece of the pancake and gave it to him. Initially, the claim felt awkward, but still ate the pancake. There was also a Jewish man at the fair who saw everything. Later, the claim went to a church, and the man followed him there. This man had once been a war prisoner too, so he didn't report the claim to the police and tried to help him. He took the claim to his home, where the claim saved up some money and restored his old appearance. The man gave him a new passport so he could cross the Russian border and reach Germany. Before leaving, the claim thanked the man and set out for the Russian-Germany border. A few weeks later, the claim reached the Russian border and showed his passport to the Russian soldier. He feared that the soldier might recognize him or that his fake passport would be caught. But fortunately, nothing happened, and the soldier allowed him to cross the border. The claim was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. Finally, he reached the bridge, which, once crossed, would take him to Germany. But just as he reached the middle, a bright light flashed in his eyes, and when he opened them, he found himself face to face with the warden. When the claim looked back, he realized he was still on Russian soil, meaning the warden could still arrest him. His heart broke as he thought all his efforts had been in vain. But then something unexpected happened. The warden let him go and gave him permission to continue his journey. At first, the claim couldn't believe it, but he gathered his courage and moved forward. The warden had been impressed by the claim's will to live and his bravery, so he didn't arrest him and allowed him to return to his country. Finally, the claim crossed the border and reached Germany. He went home and saw his wife and daughter. After a while, they went to church, and the claim followed them. Inside the church, his daughter recognized him and ran to hug him. His wife was overjoyed to see him alive after so many years. The three of them hugged, and the movie ended here.